Now, the Premier League season finally ended yesterday. Of course, the outcome in terms of the winners was long known. It's Liverpool, and they won, I think, with 7 games to spare. But there were still some very important issues to be decided yesterday. Champions League places with Manchester United, Leicester and Chelsea all engaged in a battle to get into the Champions League, which means such a lot to all the clubs. Also, Europa League places, and Spurs secured a Europa League place. And of course, there was relegation from the Premier League, which is such a blow to all the clubs. But I'm joined now by Liam Brady to look back at the season and look in particular at yesterday, and also at VAR, our old friend VAR, which has had an up and down season, and we'll talk about that later. Liam, we've spoken a lot about Liverpool, so there's no need to cover old ground. I just wanted to ask you your assessment of them when they are compared with the great sides we've seen in the Premier League, and indeed before that. Graham Souness on the night that was in it when they beat Chelsea 5-3 last Wednesday and received the trophy, Graham was very, very effusive about them. He said they had the ability to be one of the great sides. Of course, he qualified that by saying they'll have to win more trophies, but he thought they had the capacity, potential to do that. How do you rate them in that kind of context, Liam?
Yeah, I would pretty much agree with him, Eamon. I think we've said that on the podcast before. But as Graham quite rightly says, the proof's in the pudding. You need to win more trophies. Trophies like the Champions League, trophies like the Premiership again, for this team to, be compared to the great teams that we've seen down through the years. But they definitely have the ability, and they're going to have more financial firepower, I think, after having had the season they've had, and particularly after last year as well, when they won the Champions League. That would have got the club a lot of money.
Yes.
So I can imagine they'll strengthen the team again. Maybe a centre-back to go with the centre-backs they already have. Maybe a midfield player. They've got a very good boy at Swansea. I think he's been on loan, Eamon, and he scored a lot of goals. He could come back and maybe be challenged for the striking positions. But all in all, great champions. I think summed them up the game against Chelsea during the week. They've probably taken their eye off the ball when they became champions, but when they want to turn it on, they can definitely turn it on. And some of the goals that night were outstanding, weren't they?
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out that really it's been over 2 seasons, because Manchester City beat them by a point the previous season, and if you take the 2 seasons together, it was a Herculean effort by Liverpool, not in any way to diminish what City achieved the previous season. Just on the question of City, Liam, their Champions League ban has been overturned by the Sports Court of Arbitration. I thought it might be halved from 2 years to 1, but it's done away with now. To rebuild the side, replace David Silva, for example, and probably Aguero, who is cracking on now, he's 32. They need to invest a bit, City, don't they? And Guardiola's committed himself to staying there, but with the team they've got, especially with their defence, but not only with the defence, they've got a bit of work to do, a bit of rebuilding to do, don't they?
Yeah, and they look as if they maybe lost their hunger this year, Eamon.
Yeah.
They threw away a lot of points where their attitude in games wasn't quite correct, and they probably were overconfident that they were going to win certain games, and they dropped a lot of points unexpectedly. So, and I would agree with you what you say there. Silva is leaving, Aguero getting on in years. The defence, they haven't got the signings right at centre back positions, it still looks a weak part of their makeup. So yeah, a little bit of investment needed there as well, Eamon, I would say. And of course, they've still got the Champions League to contend with this season.
Yes.
That's going to be really interesting. That's going to be fascinating. Who's going to win that trophy?
Yeah, and they have a one-goal lead. They won 2-1 at the Bernabeu. Real Madrid, who are not great, although they have won the Spanish League, they're not great, Liam. They got to come to the Etihad.
Yeah, but you wouldn't rule them out, Eamon.
I certainly wouldn't.
You've seen teams go to the Etihad and play football and expose Manchester City, particularly if Manchester City go on the attack. So I can see Guardiola playing a very cagey game when that match starts at the beginning of all.
Yeah, I agree with you very much. In fact, I don't think City are able to kind of play a containing game with the defence that they have at the moment. Just before we leave Manchester City, Liam, a question John and I have discussed at length about Kevin De Bruyne. He gets absolutely rave reviews from a lot of people inside the game, former players and of course journalists. John has a doubt about his temperament, and I have a doubt about his temperament as well. And I'm not quite as mad about him as some of his fans, although he is a very potent player when he's on song. What's your take on him, Liam? Because a lot of people said he should have been the Footballer of the Year this year.
Well, they gave it to Jordan Henderson, didn't they?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that was down to the fact that Jordan is such a good professional, and Manchester City didn't win the league. I think if Manchester City had won the league, then probably De Bruyne would have been the standout player. I mean, I would describe him as this: he's not the makeup of a cake, but he's the icing on the cake.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
I do. It's a very good description.
He's not the fella that drives the team on. You know.
Yeah.
And in fact, they probably miss somebody like that. And if you were gonna spend money for Manchester City, they need a kind of a Roy Keane or a Van Dijk kind of player who's going to accompany. They've missed badly, I think, in that respect. So they need that kind of strong-minded, strong-willed player in midfield. Obviously, has to have all the attributes of a real good midfield player, like passing, tackling, so forth. I don't think De Bruyne is that kind of player. I think he's the one that finishes things off, Eamon. You know, he's the one that can deliver the assist, or the one that can come up with a marvellous goal. But if you're depending on Kevin De Bruyne to drive the team on, I don't think he's that man. I think he's the icing on the cake, as I say.
Right. Now, Manchester United, Liam, they had an important win against Leicester. A Leicester team decimated by injuries to 4 or 5 of their regular players. Their better players really missed. And a tired-looking Manchester United have sort of staggered into third place. They have a long way to go, I feel, before they're anywhere near contending. But nevertheless, from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's perspective, he's got them in the Champions League, and therefore credit is due.
Yeah, he would have, that would have been his main aim this season, is to get United back in the top 4, to be contending the Champions League next season. He's done that. I think the team has improved immensely since Fernandes came, although he's dropped off the last 2 or 3 games. Just on a point about Leicester City, I think the big clubs with bigger squads, with more resources, have had a huge advantage over this period since football's come back, because of so many games in such little time. I think the teams that had more resources regards to squad players have fared better, and Leicester is one of the examples that they just didn't have the resources to be able to get into that top 4. But on Manchester United, yeah, I think you'd give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer probably a 6.5 out of 10, Eamon, but there's still things to be done with that team. I don't fancy Lindelof at all. I don't think Lindelof and Maguire are the partnership that's going to push them into contention in the Premiership or at Champions League level.
Right. I just I'll expose my own prejudice now. Paul Pogba's reincarnation as the new Pirlo, in a holding playmaking midfield role. Impressed?
No, Eamon, I watched them yesterday. Obviously, in between a few matches, but you watch him yesterday. He doesn't run back. He doesn't chase back. I think he's a huge gamble to make him your main man in midfield.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just don't know what Paul Pogba's going to turn up.
No, or if any Paul Pogba's going to turn up. Just a question about Chelsea, Liam. I like the cut of Frank Lampard's jib. In every position he's held at Chelsea. I loved him as a player for his, the way he carried himself, and generally as manager. He's got Chelsea into Champions League football in quite a competitive year, and they haven't spent fortunes. They bought 2 new players, which we'll see, no doubt, when the Premier League resumes in the September 12th. I was disappointed he got involved with Klopp the other night. In a really heated touch, because that's not his style.
I saw it on social media as well. I knew they had words while I was watching the match. I knew there was words over the free kick that led to Trent Alexander's goal.
Yeah.
But then I saw on social media, actually Lampard losing it a bit, and quite disrespectful what he said to Klopp, I would have said.
Yeah.
So I wasn't impressed with that. I think I gave Solskjaer a 6.5 out of 10, and I'd give Frank Lampard 8 out of 10. I thought he's introduced a lot of very good young players. He didn't have the money in the transfer market, but next season he's going to be more scrutiny on how he goes about things, I think, because he will have money to spend. He has spent some already. Will he be able to improve the younger players again next season?
Yeah.
All those kind of things. Will he be able to win a trophy? All those kind of things will be scrutinized. And you know what Abramovich is like. I think he's gone along with Lampard, and he'd be quite happy with the way he's brought the team on. But next year, I think there's going to be serious pressure on Lampard to do better than he's done this season.
Yeah, and I agree with every word of that. I think he's done a really good job. Maybe I think Wednesday night at Anfield was just an aberration, a one-off. In fact, he more or less admitted that afterwards. And they've got Tino Werner coming from Germany, who I don't think is a great player, but 59 million. The other thing about the trophy, Liam, they have a chance of winning the trophy when they meet Arsenal in the FA Cup. Let me talk to you about
that would round the season off. You'd give Lampard 9 out of 10 if you can do that, without doubt. But when I talk about trophies for Chelsea, I don't mean proper the FA trophies. Cup, I mean the Premiership and the Champions League.
Yeah. Just to go to Arsenal, Liam, Mikel Arteta, a disciple of Pep Guardiola's. He didn't take on an easy job, as no one knows that better than you, I'm sure. They're in the FA Cup final. He's pleaded, I think, publicly for the board to give him some money to spend, and they do need to spend some money to really make that a top 4 team, don't they?
Absolutely, and the money has to be spent wisely. It hasn't been spent wisely in the last few years. He's ended up having to go along with players like Ozil, who we spent a lot of money for. We bought Sanchez. That didn't work out. We swapped him for Mkhitaryan, who's been an absolute disaster as well. He's on loan in Italy. Xhaka, an awful lot of money. Mustafi, an awful lot of money. And I don't think these guys are going to be able to do it for Arsenal, So we have to start again. And that's why Arteta needs serious investment. Now, whether he's going to get it or not remains to be seen. There's an awful lot of talk that we might get William from Chelsea, who's, in my opinion, getting on in years. There's talk that we might bring Coutinho back to England from Barcelona. Not too sure about him anymore or his motivation. So I just hope Arteta gets a grip of the transfers, and it's him who decides, Eamon, who comes in and who comes out. I think Arsenal have gone down the road of having a director of football, and we've got a guy called Raul Sanalé, who became one of the top men at Arsenal after Gazidis left and went to AC Milan. And he seems to be in charge of transfers with Edu, former player. I'm not too sure. I know John Giles so often says that the manager has to be in charge of who comes in and who doesn't. And I think in the case of Arsenal, Arteta needs to get a grip of that situation. Otherwise, we could be destined to see Arsenal finish out year after year out of those Champions League positions.
Now, a listener, Liam, sent me a very nice mail about our podcast, and he's asked me to ask you about the number 7 shirt, which of course you wore, and he pointed out so many great Arsenal players wore the number 7 shirt, and he pointed out it had been given to a young lad who's just broken into the team, Saka, who looks a good player to my eye. He's the new number 7. Is he worthy of your shirt? Was the question.
I'd say so, Eamon. Yeah, I'm quite excited about him. Yeah, and he's a left footer as well. So that's something that's a coincidence. He's got intelligence as well as really good football ability. He's got speed. I think when he gets more experience under his belt, he'd score more goals. I think he could be very useful for Arsenal going forward in the coming seasons. But he's only going to really demonstrate what he can do if he's got real good players around him. And at the moment, I think Arsenal are very hit and miss in that respect. But yeah, I look forward to seeing this kid. He's come through the academy, and he seems to be a well-rounded boy and feet on the ground. And I think he's going to be a very fine player for Arsenal in the coming seasons. Okay,
our old friend Jose Mourinho got a point with Spurs at Crystal Palace yesterday. It got them into the Europa League, and the celebrations on the Spurs bench afterwards was as if they'd won the Champions League. It was absolutely extraordinary. Him and his henchmen, 8 of them, I think, all told, hugging, kissing and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And then after the match, I think he suggested if he'd been there a little earlier this season, they would have qualified for the Champions League. Interesting.
Well, I think he's lost it in the last few years, Eamon. Yeah. It doesn't ring true anymore, all this stuff, does it?
No,
I think when he was winning, we had to respect him. But when, things have turned for, I've kind of, he's been found out, in my opinion. And it's all about him, isn't it? Even that comment yesterday. He should leave that to the newspapers and the media side of things to demonstrate the fact that Tottenham have improved under his management. It's not up to him to be telling everybody.
And to be honest with you,
I
Liam,
can see that a bit like Arsenal. A bit like Arsenal. I can see Tottenham struggling to break into that top 4 again. And I think it's destined to end in a row with Levy and Mourinho. It could end up like it did at Manchester United from Mourinho.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's done a good job at all with the team. There's no settled team. He's
alien. Well, I was playing golf with Glenn Huddle the other day, not to drop names.
It's great to drop a name.
He said something interesting to me that, the way Spurs have played at home in the last 3 matches, it's almost like get a goal and just hang on to the lead, everyone back behind the ball.
Yeah.
And he said if the fans had been there, they would have gone mental about this.
Yes. Yeah.
Spurs are not a club that want to play defensive football.
No.
You go back to our day and remember the teams that Bill Nicholson had, and those fans have
Yes.
always wanted their team to play really, really good football. Arsenal, on the other hand, before Wenger, it was 1-0 to the Arsenal, and but Spurs don't want their football played that way. So Glenn made a very good point, saying that had the fans been there, I don't think they would have been very happy, even though they were getting 3 points in the last few games.
Okay, I just have to ask you, is he a good golfer?
Glenn, he played well, but he didn't play as well as me. So I took the money. Arsenal won the day.
Okay, Liam, I'll let you go in a minute. But there's just a couple of other things I want to talk to you about. One is Sheffield United, Liam, and the job that their coach has done. He's been there for a long time, been in League One, been in the Championship, and a lot of those players have been with him all the way through, and 3 of them are Irish: Egan, Stevens, and David McGoldrick, and he's done a fantastic job. It really gives you sort of real pleasure to see someone who's such a thorough pro, who's got no money to go out and they finished, very close. For a long time, it looked as if they would perhaps get Europa League football. It's a great story, Sheffield United, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And they've done brilliantly. But a bit like I mentioned about Leicester City suffering with the resources of their squad, Eamon.
Yes.
So it happened to Sheffield United too. With those, what was it, 10 games in 6 weeks or something like that. You have to say the Premier League have done really well to finish it off. And everyone to have, relegation, Champions League positions, European positions. It's great that it's been done, fairly, and they've got the whole thing over with. But Sheffield United are one of those teams that I think have suffered because of the amount of games in such a short space of time, because of their lack of resources squad-wise.
Now, finally, Liam, to your former club, Juventus. And last night they sealed the championship. They've finished 7 points in front of Inter. And, Ronaldo scored. I saw him score a great goal. He scored 30 goals for the season. And they've won Serie A for the 9th successive year. That's extraordinary, Liam, isn't it? And probably says something about, the lack of money in Italy,
where Italy used to be a powerhouse of football, and it's absolutely collapsed. And because Juventus have been the most serious club, retained the Agnelli ownership, never gone away from that. AC Milan, I think, is owned by Americans now. Inter Milan was owned by Thai people. Now it's owned by Chinese people. Italian football, as we knew it, back in the heyday of Baresi and Maldini and
Brady,
Pirlo. No, you're talking about when it was really strong.
Yes.
When AC Milan, Juventus, and Inter Milan could win the Champions League. Don't forget, Mourinho won the Champions League with Inter Milan in the spell there. It's collapsed as we know it. It's only Juventus that have been a very, very serious club and been run really well, and even to get Ronaldo to go to them from Real Madrid, I think demonstrates what kind of club they are,
Yes.
So it did look like this year that Inter Milan and Lazio might give them a run for the money, but they've pulled away again quite easily. It's not good for football, Eamon.
No, I know that.
We need to have a strong AC Milan. We need to have a strong Inter Milan, particularly in the Champions League when that competition's played.
And
Eamon, before we go, can we
yeah,
just talk about VAR a second?
yeah, I want to.
Did you see the penalty that Arsenal got yesterday?
No.
Mike Dean's reaction to it? No.
Oh, I did. I saw his reaction. Did he make a face?
Yeah, as if to say they're overruling me. Now he's
Yeah,
some presumptuous guy, that
he,
bloke, you know.
he is. Yeah, I
And
saw.
it
Yeah.
was almost like, oh, what? They're telling me what to do. I saw it, you know, and it was a nailed-on penalty. The
Yes.
centre back Dawson just crashed into Lacazette.
Yeah.
No chance of getting the ball. Mike Dean was wrong, so that's where their VAR is right. Okay, but if
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
going to sell it if they're going to sell it to us and to the fans, we have to hear what they're saying. You know,
Yes. Yes.
it's not right for them to be hiding
No.
away behind microphones and so forth.
No. It should be an open process,
And
as it is.
we don't hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be, and it would improve, I think, so much the belief from the fans in it if they
Yes.
could hear what was being said. Now,
Yeah.
let's face it, the technology is not wrong. It's the people making the decisions this
Yes.
year that got so many wrong. So let's hope they've learned the lessons. Frank Lampard actually called for a kind of a congress to sit down now and see where they can improve,
Yes.
have representation from the managers and the referees, and let's see where they can improve the whole process. But I had to laugh yesterday at Mike Dean.
Yeah.
You know, he loves
Yeah.
himself.
He
He
does.
really does.
He does. I think that might be a condition of being a Premier League referee. But just to end on a positive note, when you think about the Italian game, it is truly sad. It's clearly the absence, Liam, of the kind of television money that the Premier League has. That's a core issue, isn't it? That neither Spain nor Italy have that kind of revenue, and it's that television money. It's the way the Premier League has marketed itself around the world. That's what's making the difference, to the point where others won't be able to compete at all.
No, that's right. And that's why this European Club Association is very, very envious of the English teams, and,
Yes.
and are always trying to, get them into trouble, a bit like they did with Manchester City, a bit like they did with Chelsea. They're actually very, very envious and know that they're going to struggle to compete with the English clubs. I think I read somewhere that even a bottom of the table club would be getting more money than maybe Inter Milan.
Yeah, 150 million.
Yeah, they can't compete with that.
No.
But they have to improve their league. But certainly the Premier League and how it's organised have stolen a march on Spain and on Italy and on Germany, and it's their product that is going worldwide.
Okay, Liam. It's great, as always, to talk to you. We're very grateful to Liam Brady, one of the great players and one of the great analysts as well.